Good evening and welcome to the Leadership Boost podcast. This is your host, Sean Smith. Great to be with you again on another episode. We are talking about leadership. This is about inspiring your leadership into high performance, helping you find the principles, to find the parameters that help guide you to become an effective, high impact, transformational leader. Everybody should be desiring that. Not everybody does. Many people just settle for whatever is happening right now, and that's my life. As long as I can just get by, get some success, get by, pay the bills at the end of the month, I'm happy. What we don't realize is our lives are constantly being monitored by people around us, whether they're consciously doing it or whether we are consciously making that impression upon their lives. It is like that. People are watching us, and here you have the greatest opportunity to in fact make an impact in their lives, to influence them with the inspiration that you have. The problem is that most people never find their inspiration. So leadership begins with finding your inspiration, that you then, when you have that inspiration, you begin to live that inspiration, you begin to, in fact, influence and impact others. So in a sense, you are a leader, but you need to become a leader. And to become a leader, you've got to discover that inspiration. That's what I'm about. However, every episode I'm sharing something, one key, one principle, one truth, one point to help you adjust, shift, think about, to challenge, inspire, to influence you, to think about those things that you can adjust within the context of your own thinking, your own attitude, your own behavior, your own decisions, your own interactions with others, so that it helps you to become more effective, more influential, to have more presence, more confidence. Oh, heavens above, we need more confident people with a little bit of self-esteem. The thing about it is, coming to the title of the topic of tonight, is rules and principles, not rules and regulations. But I suppose that you could say that, but rules and principles are two different things. They're not the same thing. You know, you hear me talking about principles often, and but we need to understand is that principles are not rules. Rules can be broken. Rules can be broken, but you know, they always said, I always remember this, somebody said this, and I remember growing as I was raising my children, is that you never break rules, you actually just make new ones. So whether it's in your life or in your family, in your society, in your nation, if you allow rules to be broken, you're not breaking a rule, you're just creating another one. It's like when you break a boundary, you're not breaking a boundary, you're just making a new boundary. You're just setting a new limit. So it's like I always told my children, you know, if I allow you to break out of your little measure, that I've set your boundaries. And listen, children need boundaries. They find tremendous safety and security in boundaries. Don't have this sort of idea, flaky idea, well, they can do whatever they like and, you know, they'll find out what they need to do. No, they don't. You help them set boundaries, because then they learn what boundaries are, and then they learn to set those boundaries as they grow up. That's what is called accountability, responsibility. And we need that. We need boundaries and those are the rules. However, rules are broken. Rules teach us that I don't have to think, I don't have to innovate. In fact, the rule becomes my conscience. I don't actually have to educate my conscience. I don't have to educate myself. And I never discover true principles. I never look for the principles involved. And that's the thing that I constantly want to bring to you, because when you're out there working with your team, in your organization, with your company, you know, wherever you are, whatever you're leading, in your classroom, in the hospital, wherever you are leading, you know, the bottom line is, yes, there are rules, but sometimes those rules are there to to in fact exact a certain outcome, and they don't always exact the right outcome, because sometimes certain rules apply in certain situations but not in other situations. What do you do if the situation changes? And when somebody hasn't learned to innovate from the inside out, when somebody hasn't learned to find that initiative from on their own, they've not been empowered. Rules don't empower people. Rules set the parameters, but they don't empower people. Rules are good. It governs how society is to function or a nation is to function. But have you seen how certain things can change? So you break a rule and you go, well, I had to do it in this situation. But now you've got people that break rules without any conscience, without any sense of conscience. And so when you've got somebody without any self-esteem, they want power. But they want power so they can set the rules and determine how they can, in fact, control the situation, control the outcomes. And that never, as I say, empowers anybody. That doesn't build trust. That doesn't build empowerment within others to actually set the pace for themselves. I hope this makes sense to you. The fact is that principles, when you find the principles, I found a quote that I thought was really brilliant. This is by a guy called Nicholas Chamfort. And he said this: a person without principles is devoid of character. If he had character, he would feel he needs principles. I would venture to say that a leader who finds the principles actually develops their character. But a leader of character will always revert to the principles. They will always look to the principle, because the principle will set the direction. The principles, what are principles? Principles are unbreakable, universal, non-negotiable laws. And as I've often told you, it's like gravity. It's a universal law that operates on the earth. If you go to the moon, it's a lesser principle. But on the earth, it's a principle that works. Whether you're flying in an aeroplane, you're in the water, or you're jumping off a roof, it's all this, the principle operates. It's a universal law of the earth. You're going to when you leave the substance, you're going to go down. That's it. You just suck towards the ground, and so you could end up with broken bones if you try and defy the principle. Of course, what they've done is use technology to work with the principle, and that's how you get airplanes to fly. Have you ever looked at a ship? I think it's like tons and tons of steel, and yet it floats. How does that work? I mean, what goes in the water should sink. That's a principle. If something is heavier than water, it sinks. But in a ship's case, they've used another law to supersede that law, and that law is the law of displacement. And with planes, it's thrust and lift. So they found other laws to counteract the principles. Now, we're not talking about rules here. We're talking about principles. I suppose you could say it's a rule, but I'm separating the two for your mind's sake, for explanation's sake. So you understand is that people can institute laws, but when they come into power, and that's what I wanted to say, is when somebody has lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, they have this... I've got to be careful. I don't want to just get into things, because I want to stay with the principle of it. So they can float into wanting power where they can change the rules to in fact suit them. And so now society is not aligned with true principle. So, and that goes for your leadership, or not your leadership, but the leaders that you are raising, the people that you are influencing and impacting. Let me put it that way, is that, you cannot give them just empowerment without principle, because power without principle becomes tyrannical. It becomes vicious. And it tends then, because now they want to control the environment, dominate the environment, and I'm talking about people in this case, to in fact protect protect them from threats, protect them from from threats. That's basically it. So they have a fear down in the side of them, and they have a weakness inside of them. So they have values, but the values don't align with principles. You've always got to align your values with principles. Everybody has values, but not all values align with true principles. And that's when I talk to you about, on these episodes, about true leadership, exceptional leadership. We are talking about aligning who you are with true principles. You can never ever divorce the two. If you want to be excellent and exceptional, you've got to align your leadership with universal principles. And we're going to talk some more about this as we go down through the week. But I want you to see the difference tonight between rules and principles. Rules are man-made laws, institutions, etc., to govern, but what it doesn't do doesn't empower. But principles empower people to in fact find their own initiative, find their alignment, come into alignment with something that sets a true direction, where the true, authentic, real, the real empowerment comes out in everybody's life. It's not just someone that becomes the outstanding person and everybody is disempowered. That is not true leadership. And we've got to be able to discern good and bad, true and false. What is true leadership, and govern ourselves according to that. So come into alignment, and that's why I always talk about alignment. You need to find alignment. Are you in alignment with your purpose? And then is your purpose in alignment with true principles? Because when you do, that's when you are confident, you build self-esteem, you begin to earn people's trust, you begin to empower them. In fact, their conscience then begins to dictate to them what is right and wrong. And conscience, educated conscience, sensitive conscience, always aligns itself with true principle. Now, this might be a bit heavy tonight, but I hope you can see what I'm trying to bring out here is these two important areas. And the one is, a person without principles is devoid of character. When I read that, I thought, wow, that is... Now, when you've got somebody that wants power without principle. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi said one of the what does he call it? One of the 7 deadly sins is politics without principle. He says, if there's no principle, there is no true north, nothing you can depend on. The focus on personality ethic is the instant creation of an image that sells well in the social and economic marketplace. And then so a person without principles is devoid of character. If he has character, he would feel the need that he needs principles to align with. He would always go back to the principles. And so I'm going to bring out some more of this as the week rolls out, and we can talk more about rules and principles, specifically the principles that govern or that are in place for leadership. Leadership principles never change. They're always in place, and it behooves you to embrace them, learn them, understand them, embrace them, and begin to live them out, make them part of who you are. So you don't want to be somebody, be found to be somebody without principle. Power without principle becomes tyrannical. All right, so that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. Because, you say, well, what's that relevant to me? Well, the simple fact is that in any leadership kind of situation, in any situation in life, in any relational situation, if you are, in fact, a person that has power over others without principle, you can become a tyrannical kind of person, which means you have no respect or no regard, no consideration for others. So it doesn't just necessarily have to be those high level leaders, it can be in any leadership role in life, in society as well. All right, so that's from me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being with me tonight. I hope you got something out of this. I trust you do. And we'll talk to you some more this week as we move through the week, day after day, bringing you episodes on the Leadership Boost podcast. Great to be with you again. I so appreciate you wherever you are in the world. Hey, pop over to Sean's leadershipcoaching.com on Facebook, my Facebook page, and pop me a message or book an appointment. Let's have a chat about you and your leadership. Where are you going? Let's see where your alignment is. How's your purpose? How's your inspiration, your influence, and your impact? Hey, let's have a discussion and we can start a journey, maybe, possibly, that could bring you into a new place of high performance. All right, so from Sean, thanks again. Until next time, it's over and out.